Hey guys, welcome to our third episode of season 2, BDSM. This episode we watched, we're keeping on theme, which I kind of, I try to go a little unexpected with you guys. So the theme is Scared, and the movie I chose,
All right.
my awful writing.
Is that the original?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, awesome.
All
All
right,
right,
I chose, the theme is Scared, and the movie I picked was Past Lives.
What a good story this is. Childhood sweethearts who reconnect 20 years later and realize they were meant for each other. In the story, I would be the evil white American husband standing in the way of destiny.
Shut up.
It came out last year,
Yeah.
so it's pretty recent.
Doing a semi-current movie finally.
Yeah, semi-current.
It's not from the 70s.
We're hip, fellow kids.
Very hip.
Look at Val's hair.
I like it. Looks
All right,
pretty cool.
Box art.
Oh yeah, Past Lives. Written, directed by Celine Strong. I think it's her debut. Yeah, I'm not really. I kind of mentioned it, but I'm not really into like love movies, romance movies. I haven't seen a lot, to be honest, and the ones that come straight to my mind are rom-coms, which
Sure.
I don't like, unless they're Adam Sandler ones, of course. But yeah, I watched it last
Uncut
year.
Gems.
I really liked it. I remember having to get up to go to the bathroom because I had crazy diarrhea that day.
I thought you were gonna say you had to cry.
No, a little too. But I remember
That would have been embarrassing, dude.
I was like, it's a pretty slow-paced movie, but I wanted to see like every interaction that these two had, and I remember I was like, I gotta go. So then I left. I remember I was like bummed that I missed a lot, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'll give a very quick synopsis. We have Nora and Hae-sung, who were childhood sweethearts. I think that's appropriate to say that.
Very childish.
Very
12.
childish.
They were 12.
12 years
they
old.
weren't like teenagers. They were like young little kids.
Innocent love. They're like very nice friends to each other, but they like each other. And then she ends up immigrating to I think it's Canada.
Yeah,
Toronto, and they just, she leaves, and then 12 years pass like right away, and then you kind of see his life in the military. He's staying in Korea, and then she ends up moving to New York, and then they reconnect on like Facebook via like 2002.
Yeah, it's like early Facebook.
It's like
Yeah.
Skype was still
Yeah.
really big.
It's not your grandma's Facebook. It's like when Facebook was still maybe a little cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, these days, it's our grandma's face.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think she's just talking on the phone with her mom and saying like, "Oh, who else should we look up?" And then she's like, "Oh, who's that guy?" Like, and then she checks that like I don't know, it was on her dad's page or something. But I guess he has been looking for her, and they reconnect online, and they're both pretty like stoked to be just talking to each other.
Yeah.
It seems like they're feeling they enjoy each other. Like there's a scene where she's literally running to her
both
apartment.
of them are like constantly like skipping out on hangouts to like FaceTime each other, Skype each other.
Exactly. They're both
Yeah,
really
yeah.
really
they're,
stoked.
They're in like a pseudo relationship. Like
Yeah,
online.
but they
Yeah.
never state it. Like
Yeah.
they never state it.
Yeah.
And then like there's a scene where like she's like talking to him like, "Hey, so would you ever come to like New York?" And I thought it was so fucked up. He's like, "Why would I go to New York?" And then I think after he said that, she's like, "Okay, I think we should take a break from each other." And he's like, "What?"
Yeah,
We're-
'cause she
we're like-
basically
She then reciprocates because she's like, why, like, you know, why don't you come? How about you come to Seoul? And she's, why
Yeah.
would I go?
And then she
They're-
says the same thing,
Yeah,
right? Why would I go to Seoul?
it's like
They're both pursuing their
Yeah.
careers.
Yeah.
They're living their
they're
lives.
trying to live their lives.
12 years go by again. Oh no, she goes to like a writer's retreat that she mentioned, and then she meets a dude. 12 years go by, and she's married. He had like he's got a girlfriend too.
Yeah,
You,
some
you could
kind
of
he's
tell a
dating
little
someone.
bit. He's like dating someone.
Yeah,
Or so we're told.
yeah, I
Yeah.
believe him.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then-
we'll get into that.
And
Yeah.
then
No reason to
well,
doubt
there
him.
was that he's sitting at the restaurant and like
with his boys.
yeah, there's like no dialogue. No, when he's by himself in China, remember? And then there's that other girl there.
Yeah.
And then they reconnect. He's on vacation in
Yeah.
New York City.
It's clear
And,
immediately that he's only there to see her.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
we find out because her and her new husband are her husband are walking down the street, and he's like, "So when is he coming by? Like, how long is he staying?" And then so the husband's aware of this situation, and then they finally meet up, and then a lot of weird emotions, I
Yeah.
should say.
Complicated
And then I'll just kind
emotions.
of open the floor now to you guys because I think that's pretty much
Yeah.
it for the plot, right?
Yeah.
Very thick synopsis.
Yes. Yeah, I thought this movie was very, very good. I really liked it.
You clapped?
Yes.
You
I
clapped
did.
when
I
it
clapped
ended.
at
I
the
was like,
end.
wow, and you clapped.
I was so into it.
More than Michael Clayton.
Yeah, I liked it even more than Michael Clayton. And yeah, I thought like about halfway through we paused it, and I was like not fully into it. But as
Mhm.
soon as like the actual drama of the main thrust of the story being this kind of love triangle thing, once that started unfolding, then I was like really into it.
Yeah.
And not even because of the drama, just like because of the emotions that all three of these people were dealing with. I mean, that was so
Yeah.
much more interesting than just some kind of like petty. I don't know. It wasn't like kind of the husband mentioned, like in a lot of these cliche movies, it'd be like
Yeah.
the white American husband is like the villain, you know, for the true love of this guy from her country to come back and fall in love with her, and this guy's standing in the way. But it wasn't that kind of movie. I mean,
Mhm.
it kind of was, but you know, it's a little more complicated than that. And yeah, I really liked the husband character. I mean, you feel bad for him, but he's also like, you know, I mean, he's a pretty good guy.
He's
like,
an adult about it.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I felt
he was there for
awful
her at the
him.
very end when she like.
He's like not a douchebag.
Not at all. Yeah, and I like there was a moment like I don't want to get ahead of myself, but like the first day she goes out with her old friend. What's his name from Korea?
Hai Sung.
Hai
I
Sung.
thought it was Hae.
I think it's
Hae Sung.
Well, I'm
Hae-sung.
bad with
Hae
pronouncing. I
Sung.
thought it was Hae.
Look, we're gonna butcher these names.
sorry.
alright?
I'm
pretty
It's
sure
just-
it'll be on the
it's-
screen.
It's
We're trying.
Hae-sung
Yeah.
and
Hae-sung?
Na Young.
Not young.
Not
Hae
Young.
Sung and Not
Who's-
Young.
Hae
She
Sung
goes
and
by
Na Young.
Nora when she's in
Yeah,
the,
she changes
in
her
the
name
US.
to Nora Moon,
Nora Moon.
when she moves to
Yeah.
Canada, you said?
Yeah, and then she
Yeah.
said
Yeah.
her mom doesn't even call her
Yeah.
Hae Sung.
Yeah.
Or
No. Yeah, when she was first out that first day with Hae Sung in the park and stuff, and when she came home, her husband was like not worried at all. He was like sitting on the couch just
Playing
gaming.
Fortnite.
Yeah, he was playing Fortnite. He had his headphones on. He didn't even notice that she came home. And then
Yeah,
like
man.
once
Mortys.
they actually talked about it, then the next night when they came home together, he was like eagerly waiting there, like tapping
Yeah.
his leg and like on his phone,
Yeah.
like waiting for the second they'd come home.
I think a
Yeah.
big part of it is how open they all are. All three of them.
Definitely.
Like she's not hiding anything.
Yeah.
She's not, really like denying
Mhm.
stuff too much.
I mean, I don't think she at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, gaming might be how he deals with the anxiety or how he quells his fear.
That was my
Yeah.
What's
instinct
going
too.
on?
Yeah.
Fear, scared.
Yeah.
But then he put the game
Yeah.
away.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. And let's make note of the fact that he explicitly stated that he was scared.
Sometimes, I don't know. I guess I get scared.
Okay, so I've talked about space before. Like we've held dialogue about that. One of the things that I think was so notable about this film is that the emotions have so much space. Take for instance the end scene where they're
Ugh.
saying goodbye for the last time. there's so much emotion just hanging in the air, and they don't speak. They're hardly moving. And the director Celine Song gives so much space to that moment, and the same concept goes throughout the full film. Like, you have every one of those emotional moments has so much space for the audience to like really be drawn into it. And I mean, my heart was in my mouth half the movie. I thought it was great. After the movie ended, I needed a second. I was like,
dude,
I
I did
was so
too in the
heavy.
theaters. I was like,
Yeah.
this is fucked up.
My heart was like pounding when they were waiting for the Uber outside. I was like, what's gonna happen?
Because it's like, it's not sexual. Like, she's not trying to, it's like,
Yeah.
it would have been, it's weird to say, like, okay, if they would have fucked, okay, then it's over. But it's like, no, they like, really enjoy each other's presence. Like,
It's so sweet.
genuinely just like, I just want to like hang out with you. Like, I just, the smiles they were giving each other, you know, like, she was so happy, he was so happy, not even talking to each other.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone's life has these sliding door moments where you could go through this door, you could go through that door, and what your life might have been. And so there's both. This movie is simultaneously a very specific story about these two people, but it has universality. Like, I think anyone can relate to this, because we all can't help but wonder what our lives might have been, what direction they might have gone. And I think most people, there must have been at least one person where you thought you had a connection with, and for whatever reason, it just didn't fully materialize. And if anyone's experienced unrequited love, that is, I mean, I don't think anything quite makes a lasting mark like that. And usually it's like just really the first time. You'll never have an experience like that again. That's the stuff of Shakespeare, Romeo, and you know that stuff. But it's all packed into this. And there's a line in the movie early on from Nora's mom, Na Young, where she says to, I believe it was the mother of Haesung, when
the park.
Yeah, when they coordinate, they have
Like a
this
little
date
play
for the
date.
kids, a
Yeah.
little play date, yeah. And then they're talking about them, you know, they're just like two kids playing in the park, and then they're talking about their lives. And she says, the mom of Nora says that they're going to be leaving, they're immigrating. And then the other mother says, like, oh, wow, you're going to leave everything behind? And then she says, it caught me as, wow, that's a line. She says, well, when you leave something behind, you also gain something. Anyways, I'm not sure like how, if I'm tying this together well, but that line made an impression on me, where it's like, yeah, it's true. It's very painful and difficult to leave behind something, but then again, it's scary. But then again, you do gain something as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, enough
Taking
of
that leap.
Yeah, enough of that.
It's always a
But,
roll of the dice. No, not
Yeah.
enough of that, because I
Right.
think.
I mean, that's most of this movie.
More of that.
Yeah.
More
But that's
like-
also how I think any person, some people cope better than others. I'm not a good coper, but I think that's how we have to cope with our lives. We have to tell ourselves, oh gosh, okay, it hurts to leave this or to have lost this.
Mm-hmm.
But
I'd like
where
to-
do you find the silver lining or the meaning
Yeah.
in it?
To interject on, I like another quality of the movie is the background, the choices where they meet. For that little date, there's two statue faces facing each other. I think that's supposed to be symbolic of their kinship, their togetherness, the relationship that could be. And then later in the movie, when they meet again, and it's 24 years later, they're in front of this statue, well, more like a slab, and there's two people facing the opposite direction. And I think it's obviously saying in many ways, especially with the stairs and the parting streetway, that they're going their separate ways. And I think this is an inevitability in life. You just kind of have to go your own way, go where you need to go to grow, develop, and become more you. And I think that this movie kind of captures that in a very nice, sentimental way.
Oh yeah, so this was just like a quick read of the filmmaker who I actually don't know anything about. Like, I mean, but hell of a job, hell of a directorial
It was her
debut.
first, right?
Yeah, it was
Okay.
her first. But apparently, this movie is semi-autobiographical. Now,
Oh.
anytime that people say
It
based on a
is.
true story, well, no, I was gonna say like that could be very loosely interpreted.
Yeah.
It's like based on a true story. It's like, well, that person did have that name, and then whatever, you know.
I mean, all
But-
movies are based on.
But I
true
do
stories.
sense that, yeah, and I mean, there's a familiarity to this and a poignancy that it's like, oh yeah, like she went through something like this. I'm not anywhere to the same extent, but it was very relatable for me. I'm guessing it would seem to. Yeah, like I don't know if you've ever loved someone, but it couldn't be, or even if it's intense lust, just a strong connection to someone. And it's like it's almost within your grasp, but it can't be, and it just. You
Well,
just,
it's
yeah.
also shitty because it's not like they didn't like each other and broke up. It's like they just the circumstance doesn't work.
I mean, they never
Like
got
you're
a
over
chance.
there, yeah, you're
Yeah.
over there. I'm over here. Are you gonna move? Well, no, you're doing your own shit. I'm doing my own shit too. All right. Well, I still like you, and then it's like you still like me, but what are we doing here? You know.
Yeah. And I think, you know, I like the title Past Lives. I mean, it kind of says it outright at the end. But
Yeah.
kind of, you know, the little sneaky little theme of the movie is that our past lives aren't just our, like,
What's the term?
Yeah, there's that Korean...
I'm an
Inyeon.
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 Yeah.
We'll put the term on screen here. But yeah, the past lives aren't just the, you know, the literal, like, past lives in the, like, Hindu reincarnation sense,
Mhm.
but also, like, you know, the life you leave behind,
Yeah.
the road
Yeah.
not traveled, or the, you know, I mean...
She literally had a different name.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then that becomes more and more clear. I think the movie makes that more and more clear at the end, makes it more overt when she's telling Hae-sung that she's not the girl he remembers, but that girl does still exist, but she's not her.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that was weird. It's like we did have that experience. I'm that person, but I'm not anymore. It's like
'Cause it
that's
was a
still
past
me. It
life.
exists.
And yeah, I mean, if you think about, you know, any of you at home, think about where you were 12 years ago. A lot of the time that can seem like another life, another person.
Well, a lot of shit happens
I mean,
in that time.
It's also, there's a point to be made that physiologically speaking, you are comprised of completely different cells every 7 or 8 years. I think it's somewhere between that.
It's a very clinical
So
Yeah.
take.
you technically
Yeah.
are not the same person after a while.
Yeah.
Well-
I know.
That's maybe
I-
like why they were staring at
Yeah.
each other for so long.
It's like, I still recognize
Yeah,
you.
I know that. I know that when I'm contemplating the agony of unrequited love, I think about the cellular makeup of the human body.
I think, like, look, man, it hurts right now, but once all my cells are
Yeah.
replaced in my body, I'll be a different person.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'll be able to truly recover from this heartbreak, but once my cells are completely new,
Yeah.
yeah.
So like
Yeah.
also what I enjoyed about this movie was the realism and sense of like it's not like a lot of crazy shit happens.
Yeah.
It's not like there's not like a wild chase. It's pretty slow. I don't know. Is it safe to say not that much happens?
It's a
but
low energy
but
movie.
does happen at the same time.
Did you guys think of, for me, this movie made me think a lot of Lost in Translation, which is a personal favorite of mine.
Haven't seen it.
Haven't seen
I've
it.
never seen it
Okay.
either.
What? All right, well,
Don't pick
that's
that for your
that's
next movie. Don't do it.
that's I'm not exaggerating. That to me is required viewing.
I'm gonna
That
watch
that's
that.
but about it's not especially Lost in Translation. I won't get into that, but that movie especially is not really a love story. It's more about human connection. This obviously there's a touch of it being a love story, but also it's more just human connection. These two people had this very strong connection, and it's even if they fine. So all that time passed, they never saw each other, but forgive me, I'm going to read like a Hallmark card, but time and space has no effect on the human heart and how you feel about something. It doesn't matter how much time has passed, how much space there is. When you feel a connection with someone, the second you see them again, or if you never, it doesn't matter. It's instant. It's right there. And this movie does an excellent job of capturing that. They never lost that connection. They're different people. Those are past lives.
Right.
But the connection stays, and that's why they're still saying.
They're
in young.
Yeah, and that's why they're saying. And I thought that it was a very, it was subtle, but it did a great job of, because the whole time, at least while I'm watching the movie, I'm waiting for, are they going to finally get to part of the conversation where it's like, gosh, like what happened? Could we have been married? Could we have been together? What happened to us? Or what might have been? And it finally gets there toward the end, that last scene when they go out to dinner ostensibly.
Should we just talk about the juicy part?
I mean, the second half is the interesting part.
Yeah, when they finally meet up with each other.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Before, or whatever.
Well, before, just to like frame it.
Sure.
Because the first scene of the movie is that scene.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's right.
So the first scene of the movie, and I thought it was interesting. It's almost like an assignment that you would get like in film school or something, because there's this narration that we never get explained, but it's like a teacher assigning this student like, okay,
what's going
here's the
on
scene.
here?
Who are these people?
Yeah.
And it was a great question because it's a very unusual trio.
Situation. If you were at a bar and you saw that, everyone's fucking curious. It's like, who do you think is the boyfriend?
And that's
or are they
like-
friends?
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
You don't know what
didn't-
their thing is, and that's kind of our perspective. Before we get to know them, we just see three people at the bar, and we don't, it's just kind of an objective shot of them. But later, when we go back to that scene and we see what's actually happening between them, the way it's directed, pretty much the husband, was his name Arthur? Yeah.
Arthur.
He starts off in the frame with both of them, but pretty much every time the two of them start getting into conversation, he's either out of focus or just framed out, and then maybe they'll mention him and he'll be in the frame once again for a second. But then really what's happening, is it's this conversation between these two, and he's on the outside of that. And you were going to say something.
Well, no. I mean, I didn't cleanly finish my thought. Maybe it wasn't important to, but I was just thinking about, again, like human connection and how time and space doesn't really have an effect on that. But then also, and this is a painful realization, and it's an ongoing painful realization that, sometimes even if a connection is so strong and it feels like we're meant to be, connections that they sometimes it's like they just have their time and place, and that's that. And some people are, I envy these people. Some people are utterly practical, and it doesn't mean that they're unfeeling, but they're just able to categorize feelings and go, okay, this is how I feel, but I put that there. I honor the feeling, but I put that there, and they don't stay in it. I stay in feelings and my feelings and fixate and all of that, and I'm amazed by people who are able to just move on, right? To leave something in the past and then move on. I fixate on the past. There's an amazing quote from William Faulkner. Shout out to William Faulkner, great writer, but about the ability to move on from the past. And I'm paraphrasing, but the line is something like, "How can you move on from the past when the past hasn't even passed? When you're still in it?" Anyways,
yeah. I mean, you got to move on from the past.
Yeah.
These past
but
lives are just that.
Some people can just do that. They can just say, okay, over and done with, moving on, forging ahead.
That's life.
Yeah, that's life. Yeah.
Well,
do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Actually,
because the Hae Sung character has a harder time at that. The Nora character, she is able to,
but she's still there.
Or
she is.
He's just being more honest about how he feels.
Yeah,
that's what I was also gonna say.
It doesn't seem like she's fully moved on. By the end.
Well, I think I also though she can't say everything too because she's married.
I don't know. It seems like she can say whatever she wants. I mean, her husband seemed like, he just wanted to hear how she was actually feeling.
I mean, when you're in those situations, like as soon as you start saying things, like it doesn't feel right. Yeah. Actually, I want to praise the writing in this movie for that reason. Like, there wasn't anything inappropriate said. Like the feelings, feelings were all there.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are all sorts of clumsy, ridiculous things that could have been said, but they weren't. And I mean, I don't know. It seemed to me that you get the sense of like why. I mean, she's not about to say "I love you too," you know, like, but she does. She clearly does.
Right.
She has all this emotion
Hey
about
Sung?
him.
Yeah, I mean, she
Yeah.
does. Yeah, she feels very strongly to him. And,
Yeah.
He said explicitly that he loved her. She never said the same thing, but it's clear that she does, and I think that's are very artfully done. You know?
Yeah.
And
Well,
it's just
nothing. They're
They're,
just.
they're drowning in this. They're drowning in the ocean of their emotions. They're drowning in all this. What can you say? Like it's too much.
I'm not just
Goodbye.
saying it, but but
Bye.
that theme of scared, I think, is pretty important. I think they're both of them, on some form, are scared in terms of like back 12 years ago to do that leap. Like, you know what?
Yeah.
Even for a weekend, let's go see
Yeah.
what we can do. This. I think they both genuinely liked each other, but
Yeah.
both of them were scared in some way to like deviate from their game plan of like, I need to do the schooling or I need to do this, you know.
Yeah, it was something they had to honor, you know. Like, and it was cool of the husband to say like, it's good that you came here and that you guys dealt with this.
Did they deal with it?
Well, I don't know, clumsily or as awkwardly or painfully as they did.
They faced it.
like,
But it's like,
yeah.
it. I don't know if they.
To
What
go on that.
What are you
So
gonna do
like,
about it, right?
Hae Sung throughout his college years has the same friends up until
Yeah, I love that.
his
homies are all
30s,
the
I guess.
same, Yeah.
Yeah.
They
Which
all
is
they all
also
meet
very
up at like a
traditional.
restaurant and they drink and like
Yeah.
his friends they like cry at each other's shoulders and stuff.
That was so endearing. That group
I
of
know.
friends. Yeah.
And
I wish
then
we were like
They
that.
were
Yeah. Yeah, they were like the alternate boys discussing some
Feelings.
relationship.
they meet up and then right before he goes right to New York, he meets up with his homies and they're all like, "So you're going to New York, huh?" He's like, "Yeah, going on vacation." You're not gonna go see that girl, are you? He's like,
Bro, you're not
what,
still
what
into
girl?
her.
Yeah, what
Yeah.
girl are you talking about?
Dude, get over her,
and
man.
his friends are like, "Really? Like,
Yeah.
who the fuck do you think we're talking
Yeah.
about?"
And then they were like, "Ha ha ha! It's gonna be raining the whole
Yeah,
time.
your
Like,
vacation,
when he's-
huh?
some vacation."
when he's going
Showed all his.
when he's going through customs, purpose of visit, not to visit the former, not to visit the lost love of my life.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's get into that juicy part then, right? So he's planning to go to New York. Nora has to tell her husband. Doesn't have to. She tells her husband, "Hey, like I guess he's gonna be over here and he wants to meet up. So we're gonna hang out, you know." And I think it just shows his emotional maturity of like, yeah, I mean, go for it, have fun, you know, let me know how it is, you know, you guys are childhood sweethearts. you know.
Yeah, it's so realistic because he's in a rock and a hard place. He can't say no, don't do that. But of course, he's gonna be insecure, scared about what might happen.
I mean, I was getting
Yeah,
the
I mean-
vibe, like I said, at first that he wasn't worried at all. I mean, that was just how I saw it. But when
Really?
when
Oh.
she came home and he was on the couch playing video games like that, and like, I don't know if he was nervous or scared. I feel like he'd be like, you know, waiting by the door for her, and you know, like up talking to her the second she walks in. But he didn't even notice that she came in. And he
Yeah,
had
so,
headphones
so
on.
maybe that first time he wasn't.
I don't think he was nervous the first time. but-
Maybe we should address there is a very pivotal scene in the movie. I hope the camera caught that. There's a pivotal scene in the movie.
I know what it is.
When when they're in bed and
Oh.
he's just now spelling it all out.
Yeah.
Like all of his.
But that's
fears.
after the meetup.
Correct.
after the-
Sorry.
let's do
Okay.
the
Yeah.
meetup
The
and
meetup.
then-
Okay. Forgive me. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So shut it down.
I was just scared that we were gonna.
We're
leave
not
that
going
out.
to skip over that.
Yeah,
There's not a
scared,
lot of
yeah.
shit that happens. It's like those
Yeah.
intense. That conversation is really intense.
I mean, he's really laying it out, and I think he's kind of trying to like guide her towards her own feelings. you know, and-
So Nora and Hae Sung finally meet up at the park, and they just are like embracing each other. Just they're so happy to see each other, you know. And she's gonna show him around New York, you know. And I also like the scenes of him just being alone. You know, I feel really bad for this guy too.
Yeah.
You know, like he seems like such a sweet guy. You know, he's very clean. You know, he's just like he's there. He knows what he's there for, and like I don't know. He doesn't really feel like he's that nervous, but I'm pretty sure he is.
Mm-hmm.
And then they finally meet up, and I don't know what's the first thing they do. The merry-go-round or
They
the
hug.
statue.
They're
Or
just taking a
they
stroll.
hug, and then
Yeah, they take a stroll. I don't think they actually go on the merry-go-round, but they're walking
Yeah.
by it. And then
they're talking about each other's relationships,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
And then he asks her. The whole movie's poignant.
I guess
but
it's the Brooklyn
he
Bridge.
asks her, like, "Oh, is this where you and your husband used to date?" She's like,
Mhm.
"Oh yeah, all the time." And
Mm-hmm.
you know, so
And then she's like, "This is where we used to fight all the
Yeah.
time."
yeah,
And-
yeah.
And
That
he's
was
like,
yeah.
You guys fight? She's like, "Oh yeah, we're like two
Yeah.
pots in a plant."
And
or-
you can
Oh
tell.
yeah,
two-
I
two
love that.
plants in a-
Two plants in a single
in a
pot.
single
They need to
pod.
find where their roots
Yeah.
can grow or whatever.
Yeah.
And
I
the
love
whole
that.
time, and again,
Poignant.
it's the sorry.
No, I'm just saying that was.
No, I'm
poignant,
just saying
as
it's
you're
the restraints of the writing, but like looking back on it, I'm just so impressed by it because he's naturally he's being very careful, but you know he's beating around the bush, but he's very gently, carefully trying to find out about her marriage, the
Mhm.
quality of the marriage. Not because I don't think he's trying to undermine it, but
Yeah.
he's,
But she's also curious about
yeah,
his
yeah,
situation.
he's trying to
That-
get an idea. He's like, "Oh, you two fight, you know? Oh, okay."
No, but that's the
Like,
thing.
Yeah, he cares.
He didn't bring up you guys fighting.
Mhm.
That's
she,
right, yeah,
she brought it
yeah.
up that this is where we used to fight all the time.
Yeah.
And then
So his antenna goes up, yeah. When
yeah, and then she asked like, "What about you?" And then she's like, "Oh, you know, I have a girlfriend, but like they're not broken up, but they're not together, and it's because of his like traditional Korean values.
Right.
He's like super modest. Like he still lives at home with his mom, and he's like, yeah, I don't make enough money to like. She deserves better, and
Yeah.
you know, I'm too ordinary.
Mhm.
Like he says that a couple times. Like I don't think I'm good enough for her yet.
yeah,
and,
there's
like-
a lot of things going on.
And
with
like
that.
you can
Like-
tell she really likes that about him. Like
Yeah.
that personality of like, you
The
know,
humility and the
the humility,
humbleness.
yeah,
Oh,
the
man.
humbleness, and it's so
Great guy.
genuine, you know.
yeah.
It seems like she mentions a bunch of times how Korean he is. Like
That
when
was
she's
a
talking
funny-
to her husband.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then the date's
she
over,
says
right?
remember she says there's an important line I thought when she says that to him that marriage is hard for someone like you because you're so idealistic.
Yeah, I love
Yes.
that.
Yeah. And
I mean, because he's
and that
kind of-
resonated for
she's more
yeah.
practical, and
Yeah,
he's kind of. I mean,
that
she said
resonated for me.
idealistic, but I
Yeah.
feel like he's
Yeah.
more of a romantic,
Yeah.
kind of waiting for his true love or his amazing person. That's and she's kind of just practical. She's like, well, I'm kind of. There's this other writer guy I'm dating, and he's a good guy, so maybe we should get married or whatever.
She's showing pictures, and he's like, "Oh, you look like really young there." She's like, "Yeah, we got married earlier because of
Yeah.
the green card."
the green, right?
And
yeah.
that's like that's something that's definitely part of this
yeah.
whole thing. It's
That
like,
was one of the most
wow.
important
I
lines,
wonder
I
if
thought.
if like that was the main I'm sure she really loves
obviously
this
they
guy,
like each other quite
right?
a
She
bit.
really likes
Yeah.
him, but the green card thing was
Yeah.
a line in that,
Mhm.
you know.
It was important to note that, she wouldn't
Yeah.
at least have gotten married maybe so early or maybe ever if it wasn't for the green card. And, I mean, it's
Yeah.
clear
If
that pushed
if
things.
nothing else, it was an incentive to marry him.
Right.
If
Mhm.
nothing else, I'm not that. Yeah, exactly. It's not-
They
Yeah.
said also that they moved in to save money on rent.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it was
then
all those
the
practical
rest of that
stuff.
date is them staring at each other,
Mhm.
right? Or they're just like they're walking, she's taking pictures of him
Mm.
and like, "Oh, you look really good here." And then finally she goes home, and then she has the conversation with her husband about like how it went, right?
Yeah.
That's when he's playing the video games where he didn't seem like he was too worried.
Yeah.
And then she's like brushing her teeth, and they're getting ready for bed,
Mhm.
And I think that whole scene is pretty fucking important. In
Yeah.
this.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's.
Yeah.
Val, what did you think of that scene?
Dude, boring. I'm gonna be honest, guys. You shouldn't look to me for the big insights on this one.
that's funny.
I thought it was nice catharsis for that type of longing feeling that you will have in life.
Mm-hmm.
But my go-to strategy for that is just to cut it off and like just forget about it, move on.
It's a past life.
Yeah, we're
So I
we're
was
very
just
different
like,
in
yeah.
that regard.
this is a lot of extra time.
Yeah.
I could have spent playing video games or something.
But I think that's
Well-
something the characters learn is, I think they had their opportunity. I mean, when they were kids, it wasn't really their choice that they got split up. And then 12 years later, when she was like, I'm not going to go to Seoul, and he was like, I'm not going to go to New York, that was their opportunity, basically. That was it. And that's past now. And I think by the end of the movie, what they learned, the two of them, Nora and Hae Sung, learned that they have to move on now. It's like, all right, we had our chance, and it's passed, and now past. And now there's nothing we can do but sit with where we're at. And
This is the best way I could describe it to me, my perspective. It's like when you're a little kid and you always want to hold your parents' hands and you have a difficult time letting go and you're like crying because they left you at like daycare or like kindergarten or whatever. And it's like some kids take a long time to feel comfortable without their parents around. And it's like some kids are like, cool, I'm going to go play at the playground.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's a dwelling thing, and it's like I personally think it's just better to learn to let go and be on your own and like be able to just keep going until you find something else you like to do.
These are clear personality differences, like, and that's cool. That's what makes human beings interesting.
Well, yeah.
Like that people deal with emotions sometimes radically differently, and I do think it wasn't like knocking you over the head with it. But again, I went back to the line about how she says like marriage for someone like you is hard because you're so idealistic. And again, I don't want to like suggest that these two main characters, Hae Sung and Nang, I don't want to suggest that they're like archetypes, but there is like between them, like I said, the practical and the idealistic.
There's a
where
very
those two
distinct
meet,
dichotomy going
yeah.
on between them, tradition and the new world and all that.
Exactly, you're
Yeah.
right. It's a lot more than just personality types. You're dead on. They represent a lot of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And just to offer a counterpoint, maybe not counterpoint, but an alternative view. And Michael, you actually made me think of this earlier. I just wanted to mention, because I think it's really important, there was a very, very quick reference to Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Yeah.
Very quick. And I can't even, it was so quick, I don't even remember what stage.
She asked him
It
to.
happened
You should
in the
check
movie.
this
Yeah.
movie
That
out.
was when
and
they
he-
were young.
He
And
did
there's-
it
and there's
immediately.
no way that
Between
was
12 years and 12 years.
There's no way that was an
they
accident.
were
I'm glad you
24.
brought
No
that
way.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, the whole premise of that movie is you have these memories of this love that you've lost, and they hurt like
Get it
hell.
out of me.
Yes.
But and that's the intuition, right?
Yeah.
But then, as soon as he's starting to let go of them, he's like, "Oh shit! Wait, no, I want these.
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
hold on to these."
Yeah.
So
Hold
yeah,
on
just
to them, you dummy. Hold on to them and
Sometimes
move on.
it's not healthy.
You're
though.
good.
The thing is,
Sure,
like,
sure, yeah.
the thing is, like, there is, at least speaking from my silly past, my past lives,
Oh boy.
there is,
Here we go.
no, there is, no, but I'm saying, like, yes, there's all of the pain that comes from a lost love or a love that wasn't meant to be, but there's also an elation. And what I sensed in the two of them meeting each other, as painful, awkward, difficult as it was, there was this elation too, because there's something so exciting and almost reaffirming about life that even though time can pass and you get older and more cynical and weary and guarded, it's like you can still tap back into that young side of yourself. Like you can still find that childlike enthusiasm, and that's so elating. So it's almost like, why do we sign up for the pain? Because you also have a chance to feel that elation. And there were those moments when they were just standing and smiling, like kind of timidly at first, but smiling at each other, and I felt all of that, the elation of, if only for a moment, being able to feel that pure, wholesome childhood excitement.
A well-made point, Michael.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and something to that point too, because when they come back together for the first time I mean, they were both during both 12-year periods. The first one was just online, but
They say like 20 years since we've been in the same
they
place.
say 20 years, but it's been 24 years.
It's more than
They
more.
keep saying 20. It bothered me, but anyway,
An
the way
A24 movie, 24.
they couldn't say it.
Oh yeah.
But the way they come back together and they're so instantly like best friends again, like they have such great chemistry, it's so easy for them to talk to each other. And that's the kind of thing that, you know, when you come back together with someone, maybe a lost love or someone from the past, it's like part of that is that you're so excited to see them that you know, maybe if they had decided, you know, in some crazy other reality where she decided to leave her husband and go back to Korea with fucking what's his name?
Hey son.
Hey son.
Hey, son.
You know, then maybe they would have realized that, oh man, maybe we're not meant to be together. Like we were just so happy to see each other.
There's
'cause
that side,
we missed
too.
each other and we were excited to catch
Yeah.
up, and then, you know, maybe there's nothing deeper there. Maybe. I don't know.
But also, like they said, they gave each other the gift of being able to feel these deep feelings again.
Yeah.
And again, I'll speak for myself. Sometimes it's just like, man, it feels good to really feel something again. And especially as you get older, it becomes harder and harder to feel passionate about love. So, you know, some people are like, no, I'll never have that feeling again.
Yeah.
And if you do feel it, it's like, wow, it's a rebirth. You're signing up for the pain again, of course. That goes back to the eternal sunshine thing of like, we really sign ourselves up for potentially for pain. Some people, God bless him, they figure it out and they find that person and they're great. And I don't
pretty
want
dope.
Yeah, and I'm happy. I hate saying I'm happy for someone if I don't mean it, but it's great to mean it. I'm happy for you.
All right.
I hate BS. I'm happy for you.
All right.
But
Yeah.
yeah. Anyways, yeah.
We're
So
all happy
look,
for
towards
you.
the end,
Yeah.
towards the end of that date, I just saw this picture, but it made me remember. So when they're at the Ferris wheel thing, do you remember when he tells her like, so you got
Nice catch.
you got married? We stopped talking and you got married afterwards. And like without skipping a beat, she's like, yeah, and you got a girlfriend right after too. Like I was like, damn,
Tit for tat.
she had that shit loaded,
Yeah.
like fucking ready to go.
It was in
dude.
the barrel.
It was in the barrel.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like,
Don't put this on me.
yeah, it's like, yeah, you're right.
Actually, it's a good. I think this is pointed to just like the carousel, the merry-go-round. It is evocative of.
Childlike wonder. I wasn't
Yes.
joking. I'm sorry.
No.
Yes, but no, I was gonna say reincarnation
Ah.
going around, and it was notable to me. This movie was not subtle with all of the symbolism and everything. Like
No.
the-
Not at all.
not at all. Like like
some.
she was in the Hamptons. You know, like there was a book on the shelf that said Hamptons. It's like, oh, they're in the Hamptons.
Yeah.
What was it called? The Brooklyn. Here it is. The Circle Line. In their second meeting, when they took the ferry, it was called the Circle Line.
Oh shit.
Going
An
around,
oxymoron.
I
right?
didn't see that.
I figured it was
like a
worth
flat
mentioning.
circle.
Like time is a flat circle. So you're
Lines
saying
and
basically
circles.
Who knows?
because they kind of walked in a loop in the park too.
Oh, right on,
And
right on.
so,
Yeah.
you know, that whole day they're going in circles. I don't know, maybe they're circling the feelings they don't want to say out loud. It's a lot of
Well, okay, so let's just get to this. She gets home. She starts talking about him to her husband. How'd it go? She's like, well, it went well. You know, it's weird to see him. He's like the same guy, but he's like a grown man now. And, you know, he still lives at home. But that's very traditional. It's like very Korean.
Mhm.
I have Korean friends, but, you know, and I speak to him in Korean, but he's like Korean, you know. And, like, he wants to, like, what does he say? Like, he thinks he's not good enough yet, or like he's just like, I don't know. I just really, yeah, I don't know if I like him because he
Yeah.
asks,
Yeah.
she asks
He was
her-
like, is he attractive? And she was like, he's pretty attractive. I don't know if I'm attracted to him or.
Yeah, she emphasizes how manly he is.
Yes.
She says it numerous times.
Oh, you're right. Yes.
Yeah,
She does, and I thought-
it just hangs in the air. It's like the husband just like
He's like,
great.
No, he digs deeper though.
Yeah,
he
no,
really presses on.
No,
on
he
the
does. Well,
point.
he's keeps peppering her with these questions of trying to find out, like, okay, are you
What did
attracted
you?
to him?
It's like,
oh
Yeah.
no, totally. I mean, he's in a rock and a hard place. It's like, what is he supposed to do? How can he not be concerned? You know, like
yeah, like something. I'm gonna say fun about this movie is like, or I guess any fucking movie, whatever. Putting yourself in that situation, right?
yeah,
If you were either the husband, Hae Sung, or Nora, like, how would you personally react to that situation,
Yeah.
that environment, to your significant other, you know? And like,
That's
she's
fun.
not lying. She's
Yeah.
like, hey,
Let's go around real quick, and everyone just says what they would do concisely.
Yes.
If they were in each one of their
Each
three
person's
positions.
Each one of
Yeah.
them, that would take
Let's-
a long time.
I think that was gonna take a long time.
I guess.
Yeah. Well, even though it's painful
Limit
to
3
watch
words.
the husband like clearly,
if you want to share that.
you know,
Hold on.
laying bare his insecurities, like so relatable.
That's
Yeah,
something
sure.
I wanted to say.
So relatable.
So look, yes, and then they get to bed,
Mm-hmm.
and then this is like a pretty heavy conversation.
Yeah.
Also,
Mm.
they're laying in bed together, and then he's talking to her, and that's when he says that thing of like, he's like laughing. He's like, "This is like a fucking cliche movie where I'm the asshole, and like, this is the person you were supposed to be with." And then he just keeps thinking, it's like, what if it was some other dude that you met that just liked the same shit as you, and then we moved in together because it was cheaper, and then you
He
got
was
a
saying
green
rather
card.
than him, rather
Yeah,
than
like
dating, marrying her husband. What if it happened to be a different guy that was there that
Yeah.
night they met?
Yeah, and like she's not saying much
Yeah.
to this.
She's not arguing
She's
against
just
it.
like, no, I love you. Like
Well,
she's
she-
also thinking about it too, but he's all like, you know, like you meet up with him, and it's like now it's just was all this out of convenience?
Yeah, because he's
Was it
saying like
supposed to happen?
yeah, because he's saying like what you guys have seems like this transcendent, like profound spiritual connection, whereas us is just like was a matter of convenience.
Practicality.
Yeah, it was just
Circumstance.
yeah.
And then the thing that like really like got me was like when he's like, and then did you know that you like dream in Korean? And like,
Ooh, yeah.
That's what I wanted to get mentioned because
Yeah.
it seemed like in that moment he was talking about how that was one of the reasons he wanted to learn better Korean. And I think a lot of the things she was saying about Hae Sung during that earlier conversation were kind of hitting at some of his own insecurities. And like it seemed like one of the things he was not insecure about in general, but in terms of their relationship and her family and stuff, is he was
And-
insecure about not being Korean enough or not being Korean at all.
She loves that he is like Korean.
Yeah, that's
you know?
what she kept
And-
saying.
and I
He's
think
so
it's because
Korean,
like
everything he said.
it makes her feel like homely. Like it makes
Yeah.
her think of her family,
Her childhood.
like her childhood. It's like a comfortable, like homely, like it makes her feel like you know.
Yeah, I mean,
And
she
I-
tells him how he's the only other person that she speaks, other than her mom.
Right.
He's the only other person that she speaks Korean with.
Yeah.
So there's definitely like that. That's powerful.
She's got a little
She's-
secret little space with him
she-
that nobody else has.
And
Even
then
though
she
she's-
said, he's
yeah.
like, and it makes me sad to think like there's a part of you that I just
Yeah,
don't know.
And I mean, it's another life, right?
it's past life.
It's another life.
Yeah,
And I think it's worth mentioning. I just made a note because I wanted to say this. She responds to his wonderings, his like meanderings about possible worlds. You know, like what, like if
To
there was
whose?
some other. When Arthur is in bed with her and
Uh-huh.
he's like, it could have been anyone. Like you know, if it was some other guy who read the same books, saw the same movies, and could commiserate with you about your rehearsals, it would have been someone else. She does think about it for a second, but she responds, and I think the way she responds is great. She's straight out just says, "This is my life. This, it's you." Is basically the response. It's like, maybe it was convenient, but here we are. This is my life. This is your life, and we're together.
Yeah, it's like analysis paralysis, which
And
it's
she
like
doesn't get
you-
stuck.
She doesn't
it's
exactly
like an ocean of
because
emotion.
She
Yeah.
does.
Ocean of emotion.
She does respond, but on this second viewing for me, like I don't know who she's trying to convince with those facial expressions. She does respond, but I don't know. If I was in that situation and those were responses, but they weren't very, like, reassuring, I should say.
Yeah.
Like, it's like she stated facts. I love you. No, like, that, because I'm married to you. And then she's just there staring. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
I mean, I don't disagree. But I think that's part of the complexity of the movie.
Yeah,
right.
sure.
Like she has these real emotions, these like emotions like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. They're like
Ocean of emotion.
these are like they're real, and she like, I mean, it's palpable when they're together. They hardly speak.
Yeah, there's fucking something there.
And there's so much there. And as they say with like Inyon, it's like 8,000 layers of what did they say? Like
different lives.
Yeah,
Right?
like I can't remember exactly what 8,000 layers of interaction or something like that.
If two people get married, they say it's because there have been 8,000 layers of Inyan over 8,000 lifetimes.
Was it 8,000 lifetimes?
I think it
8,000
was
something.
layers.
It was layers.
Yeah.
Layers.
Like if you're close touch, you have some in you.
Yeah.
But if you're married to that person,
Right.
then you have like
You have, like,
8,000.
mega Inyon.
You get ultimate in
Yeah.
Next
It's
level.
over 9,000.
Yeah.
Also, I think, yeah. I mean, I think we need.
So Inyon is off the charts.
Her connection to Hae-sung it's so strong too because he represents home. It's like what she left behind, and even if it seems like she was totally comfortable with it and it was a clean break, she was old enough. She had connection to that land. That's her homeland, and she
culture
left
too,
culture.
like all that.
She left it all behind. So reconnecting with him, I have to think, is more than just because she had the connection. It's also reconnecting with her homeland, with her culture. With that's
She said that at one point.
Yeah,
Maybe I just
yeah.
missed Soul. Like,
Can I make a point to broaden that?
yeah.
So this movie comes in 12-year chunks, right? And I don't know what sort of astrology the Koreans ascribe to, but I mean the Chinese zodiac, like it's 12 years, and I think that's most Asian countries.
And right now we're in the
recognize
year of the dragon.
that. Yeah, and their year of the dragon, incidentally.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like the 2012 year of the dragon, which I think is cool. But I think it's really interesting. Where, as you said that, it occurred to me when they're in the airport, like going through customs in Canada. Nora is sitting there and she's wide awake, and her little sister, her younger sister, is in her lap sleeping. Which I think it says to me like she's too young to have lived a life in Korea, to like have a life in Korea. But Na Young, Nora, was old enough she was awake.
Yeah.
She was like basically an adult. Like she had lived a full life, and she had enough time to connect to Korea and be Korean.
yeah.
I just wanted to like mention that because I mean, I hope that expands your.
No, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's the thing is, it's yes, of course she has this connection to him. Of course, there's this potential love, but she's saying when not to totally skip ahead, but like when she's saying goodbye to him, I think it's like she's getting this closure because it could not have been easy. I don't think it's easy for anybody
We'll get to
at
that
that
ending
age
because that ending was
to leave their homeland, to leave it all behind and be like, oh, and that's totally fine. And millions of people do it, but it doesn't make it easy.
I wouldn't be surprised
I
if
mean-
Celine Song did that.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Because I mean, I think part of the point here is like, I mean, and we've touched on it a number of times. Like, past lives are sometimes lives that you've lived.
Yeah.
Anything. Like I go back to
It's like
San
having
Diego and I
completely-
feel like heart pangs.
Right.
That's nothing compared to like what
Were
she
you born in
did.
San Diego?
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm from
no.
San Diego. You know, I
Explains
mean,
a lot.
it does. Yeah.
one quick little thing. It's skipping back a little bit, but the interactions they were having on their laptops and stuff. That one scene where I think was either the catalyst of like her saying we need to stop it was when he's on the trolley thing. What is that called?
Oh, is it called like a gondola? Or
The
not?
gondola
Yeah,
going
yeah.
up,
one
and
that-
he's like showing her,
Mhm.
and like he's like, "I wish you were here," and then she says, "I miss you," but it cut off, so like he didn't hear that. I wonder if that was the one where it's like, okay, this is too much for me.
Yeah.
Like, are you gonna fucking come here or not?
Yeah.
Because you know. Anyway, all right. So then the second date happens, right?
Well, it's not a date. But
Well, sure.
Yeah.
The second
hanging
the
out.
second hangout happens,
Yeah.
and the night before, I don't know if I heard this correctly, but I don't know if her husband asked like, "Oh, so are you gonna meet up with him, or are you gonna?" She's like, "Are you gonna meet up with him, or are you gonna move with him, or whatever?" And then she's like jokingly says no, but then she says, "I wouldn't miss my rehearsal, or like I wouldn't miss my my
yeah.
thing." So then she meets up with him the next day. Then they go to the Statue of Liberty, and it's just them hanging out. I don't know. Was there any new info?
I thought it was very sweet how like there are these. He keeps like going back to the like their kind of talking points as children, and so he's like asking her like, you know, first she wanted to be like, what do you want out of this life? Like, what do you want in your career? She wants to be when she's 12, she wanted to be a Nobel Prize winner. And then when they pick up the conversation 12 years later as young adults, she wants to be a Pulitzer Prize winner. And then when they finally meet in person,
She doesn't
right,
have
that,
any aspirations
like, you know, like he's
that.
asking her again. I mean, maybe it's just to try to hold on to that connection, whatever they have, but it's also very sweet. It's cute, you know, but yeah, he's just trying to find out, like, and she's like, oh, now a Tony. And then goes back to that, like, when they're, at that point...
Well, she said she hasn't thought about it. She's like, I don't even
No,
think
you're
about
right,
that
but he
anymore.
gets-
But he like brought it up for
Yeah,
her.
but at that point, then they're back to being those 12-year-olds in Korea because she says, she says Tony award, and he goes, oh, you're still the same, still psycho. So yeah, you're a psycho. And at that moment, probably because they teased each other as kids,
Yeah.
he called her a psycho, and so like in that moment, it's like, you know, they're standing in their past lives in that moment, if you will.
Really?
It
They're
also-
back to being kids.
It also brings,
yeah.
it also brings more light to the dichotomy between the two of them because he wants a wife and a home and a family, and she's ambitious and wants to like she moved to the U.S. and like wants to win awards and like she doesn't have kids. She's 36 years old. She doesn't have kids. You know.
Yeah, that was interesting. That did occur to me.
Yeah.
Like they've been married for a long. What was that? Like 7 years they've been married,
7 years. Yeah.
and no kids.
But on that,
yeah.
she, like I said, I think maybe he's like bringing that out of her because she's like, yeah, I don't really think about that. Like, I don't really have those aspirations anymore. And he sees like, well, that is you. You've always kind of been like, you know, you always got better grades than me, you know. And maybe it is to keep the conversation going, but I'm sure that also like brings up emotions about her, you know.
Yeah, and he doesn't want to lose that girl that he knew. Like, you know, he wants to hold on to that connection.
But that's from a
Like-
past life.
All right, and then the dates, the date ends, the hangout ends.
Just before I think that the director definitely purposefully had this line because Hae-sung specifically says the statue is facing away from us, and like the statue
It
that
said
were
he said she turned against us.
turned
Yeah.
against us.
Oh.
Right. Yeah, and I don't know, like that stuck with me. It seems to me that is important and meaningful.
I was
And-
wondering about that because the Statue of Liberty has a lot of significant
Yeah.
meaning for immigrants to America, not
Yeah.
necessarily Korean immigrants, but
Mm.
you know. And so I was wondering, you know, if they're basically if he was just trying to say something about the American immigration process not being very friendly.
I
these
think it's
days.
a poignant note on
quick
the
political
sacrifice that she made for her ambitions, and yet she could not achieve any of them really. I mean, that's what I was kind of getting at there. Not to say anything against America, but there's just a lot of people here, and a lot of them are sacrificing. And the more people you have in a pot to like for a small amount of positions, the harder it's going to be to get those things, and that sacrifice is going to cost a lot, but not get you what you sacrificed it for in the first place. So
Well, she's living the life though.
yeah,
I think
obviously it's
because they
still
immigrated
America.
to Canada
When
too,
they-
and she moved to America after that. So
I think it was like a note like America almost took you away from me, but it's like you're not really that much better off now.
One of
Like-
one of the blows, like emotional, like haymakers for the husband is that
Emotional haymaker.
no, it was like when he's like, what did you do or whatever, and they always saw the Statue of Liberty, and he's like, oh, you went on the ferry.
Yeah. He was like,
And
So,
like,
yeah,
yeah,
the-
and he's
the-
like, well,
the
wait,
date-
like we never did that.
the hangout
you know,
ends.
like
yeah, them hanging out that day leads
Yeah.
to they were supposed to have dinner, the three of them
Yeah.
together.
And they're walking to her apartment,
Yeah.
and he's like, so he's cool with this?
Yeah.
Dude,
It's
he asked
awkward,
that.
yeah,
And she's
yeah.
like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
And then he goes inside, and then they like that awkward first meetup of like the other dude.
I mean, it almost looks like the husband was about to cry
Oh.
when he's like standing there.
Because he's all like,
Dude.
fuck.
Yeah,
Have,
he
have any
sees
of
him
you
and he's
been
like,
in that situation where
"Oh,
you're
he's a
like
nice guy."
meeting someone
Not
that
like
you
that,
love,
no.
meeting their dude? That nailed it.
He's like,
yeah.
too many times.
Oh, that's crazy to be in that position. Yeah. Anyway.
So they,
Yeah.
they meet up. He's trying hard to. Well, he's trying to introduce himself in English.
Yeah.
And the
Husband's
husband's
introducing himself in
speaking
Korean.
Korean.
They're being
And,
very nice to
They're
each
being
other.
very nice,
Yeah.
very courteous, and let's go get food, pasta, right?
Yeah.
And then on the way to the pasta or whatever, that's when he says,
He
well,
drops
so what'd
the
you guys
bomb.
do to
Yeah,
get to?
yeah.
Oh, we went to the statue.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, you took the ferry? He's like, oh. And then she asks, remember we've done that before?
Yeah.
Or he says, have you guys not done that? And they're like, no, we haven't. And then she's like, really?
You can tell that it hurts him. It's
Yeah.
a dagger.
Yeah, that shit
I mean,
sucks.
yeah, exactly. Like,
It's the kind of thing where he's like, oh man, he's always thought like, I'd be nice to go to the Statue of
Yeah.
Liberty with her. She's never taken me, but
Mhm.
whatever. And then he finds
She's
out
like,
she
I got
went
a
with this
great
other guy. And he's
idea.
like, wait a minute, what?
Well, he's like,
He never took me there.
probably just took it for granted because he's
yeah. He's
born
like,
American,
but we did
right?
go to the ice capades at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, so that must have really hurt for him to hear that. Just like a new experience. And it's
Yeah.
like right there, but, maybe he also didn't do the incentive of taking her.
Sure, I mean, he
whatever.
could've planned
It
the
was an
trip, yeah.
experience that
yeah, he didn't
was
seem
u-
like an active boyfriend.
No.
per
unique
se.
to them.
Yeah.
And then
It's true. Every time she came home, he was just like there doing something.
I mean,
Yeah.
his job kind of says it too. He's a writer.
Well, they're both
He's-
writers.
They're both
He
writers.
sits at home and he writes. I mean, that tells you a lot about him personally a bit.
Should we mention what
Oh.
the title of his book is?
Oh
Wait,
Yes.
right before we do that, because that's a big payoff. But I know I'm kind of
Honestly,
skipping.
I thought we would be joking about
I
the
know,
entire time.
I know, I'm skipping around on the timeline of the movie,
It's
but
alright.
when she first meets him, and then she comes home, and he's playing his video. He's playing Fortnite, and then she says, she's like, "You were right." It's
Oh,
like
that's
she
right.
like the purpose of his
Oh,
visit
yeah.
was to see me,
Mhm.
and for the husband, I mean, I think if
he's
if
like,
you were-
uh-oh.
no, but it's like, of course, like duh.
Yeah.
Duh. And then I think for the viewer, that's a big fat duh too. Why? Of course we know. Why else would he be there?
I
But
don't
it's
know.
interesting.
I don't
Go to
think-
New York.
Yeah, I don't
know
think
if
it's that
automatic.
obvious.
Oh, really?
I don't think
After
so.
Okay.
20
He
years.
was in denial about
We
it.
Yeah.
know, but
Yeah.
like they could. It's been 12 years.
Yeah.
Now he's gonna fucking come.
Maybe it's
It's
just
like,
Like we know because the audience has been
We've been
seeing
watching
his
it.
life and stuff, so we know why.
why
he's
didn't he
headed
come
there,
5 years ago, 6 years ago?
Yeah.
It's like
Oh, it's worth mentioning that she went to Seoul and he didn't see her.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
I don't know how much can be examined there, but it's worth
Because
mentioning.
it happened right after she got married.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Right.
And it
right.
would have probably been too painful.
Oh,
for
he
him.
was too.
Right.
He must have been too
Actually
fucked
being
up.
Yeah.
in Seoul
And then he said, "I'm sorry," but it's like, yeah, it's understandable.
Yeah,
You fucking-
definitely.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would go. Why would you?
Yeah, I don't know. Who knows?
That's a
He was
lot.
also probably in a different emotional. He wasn't emotionally mature or whatever. I don't know. The first scene is now the final scene of
Yeah,
them
they're
at the
in
bar.
Right.
We did talk
And
about it a little.
this awkward
I don't think we
thing
ever
where,
ate pasta.
where I'll
Right?
We
be
didn't see the meat pasta.
I'll be Nora. You can be Hey Son. And,
Let's reenact this.
This will be the
Michael
husband.
will be the third
No, but
wheel.
it's like
Yeah. Well,
It
the
starts off-
self-loathing. I'll be
it
the
starts off
self-loathing
as a
Jew.
conversation, like going back
Right
and
at home.
forth.
Yeah.
She's interpreting, right?
Yeah.
Like he's saying something, and then she's like, "Oh, this,"
Mm.
and then it's slowly, it's like,
And one thing I thought was so
Work.
great about that was like, yeah, there's no way for the three of them to just have a casual conversation.
No.
Because this guy barely speaks
yeah.
English. This guy
Yeah.
barely speaks Korean.
And they're in like all three in a row.
Yeah, they're in a row. She's in the middle. So the only way the three of them can talk is if she's constantly interpreting everything.
Mhm.
And she starts by interpreting every single thing she says to both of them, and then once her and Hae Sung get more and more into talking, she'll just be like quickly translate like one thing
the
he
first
said to the
one
husband.
was like,
she'll be like, anyway.
Work was the military was tough.
He's
like,
talking about
mentally,
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mentally, it
It's
was.
like he's talking about you. Oh.
Then it's quickly, like you said, the camera just
Yeah.
stays on them, and
I mean,
then
as
it
the
gets
audience, like I was
it gets-
forgetting that the
it
husband
gets
was there.
it gets like really
I
intimate
didn't.
very quickly in terms of like I always think about what we could have had if we would have had kids, if we would have been married, we would have broken up, gone back together, and then the line that got me was like, I never thought that meeting liking your husband this much would hurt me this much, or would be this painful, because I'm sure in his perspective he's like, hopefully her husband's an asshole.
Yeah, I mean,
and
at least
she's
then
in a
it's
shitty
easier,
relationship, but she's like, he genuinely likes her husband too. Like she's happy, and then they're going back and forth, and I don't know what else do they say in that.
I mean, it seemed like
intense
in a
interaction.
past life they could have been bros, you know?
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
seemed to get along, even though they could barely speak to each other.
I
but-
think too, like once he says to her, like I didn't realize or didn't know how painful it would be, like seeing how much I like your husband, or he seems like a good guy. Then there's like I think that creates the opportunity for closure, or the attempt at closure, where it's like, okay, all right, so this is extremely difficult, but we can begin to navigate these emotions, which they've just been tiptoeing around. And then it's like, and I love that part where it's like, finally we're getting at, like, they're gonna start like having like this frank.
Well, they do have it, and
like,
she's
the
all like,
conversation.
and then what does he say? You're the person that leaves, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
just
it's
who
true.
you are,
Yeah.
and that's what makes you you.
But she was
and
saying
I
that-
like you.
But that's who she was.
Yeah.
And for him, that was who she was in a past life. But for
Mhm.
this guy, for Arthur, she doesn't leave. She's
Yeah,
someone
you're the
who
person that
stays.
stays.
Yeah.
I think it's also important to note that as they're talking in the bar, it doesn't seem like it's a restaurant, but
It's a
anyway,
bar.
No, it's a bar. They got pasta. We didn't see them.
Yeah,
get
we
pasta,
didn't see them
then
eat
they went to a
pasta.
bar
I'm
after.
dubious about the pasta, but
I want
as
pasta.
they're they start to make each other laugh a couple of times. They crack a couple jokes, or at least like attempts at humor, and so that too was very powerful to me. Where it's like, okay, like they both know that it's not going to happen, but at the same time, like they're finally getting to have what's been missing all this time. Like the connection is back. Like
And the husband's there
Yeah.
just like in a tough situation.
Oh,
yeah.
It's all like,
Yeah.
get this shit out of your system, because I also need to know what happens.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
fucking
There's
love this
nothing
guy,
you can
yeah.
do but sit there.
yeah.
like
But he knows it's like this sucks. This is the worst. But what's the alternative?
Yeah.
I can't tell my wife.
No.
No, you don't get
because
to
then she'll
Yeah,
have.
it's
be
not gonna help
resentful,
anything.
Exactly.
and then you'll always be thinking, what
Yeah.
if they did meet up, and
Yeah. Yeah. So he just has to suck it up, and he does. Credit to him. But yeah.
And then she leaves, and then her and the Hae Sung and the Arthur have a very brief interaction of
Yeah.
like, what does he say to him? He's
I
like,
don't remember.
no,
He
he
says,
he's
"I'm glad you came."
yeah. But
he's
he all
like, we probably had some in Young too, or whatever.
oh, do you know what In Young is?
Oh,
We-
right.
we
Yeah,
have,
yeah,
we have
yeah,
that now.
Mhm.
Yeah, Hae Sung, he's making in his own way what to me at least seems like amends. Like, look, I understand that this is hard for you too, and he does say he gives some type of an apology.
I'm
Like,
sorry that we were
yeah.
speaking like that.
Yeah.
I'll make sure to
Right.
speak English.
Right.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
he
Yeah,
says,
yeah.
I mean, really,
It's
all
fine.
through the thing, like none of them can be faulted. Like they're
No.
all
No,
good to
you
each
really
other.
relate
like,
to all
yeah,
three of them.
I mean,
and,
you know.
yeah.
all right,
I
and
mean, it was
then
missing a villain. There was no real ending.
And then-
No,
yeah.
fuck that. Doesn't
Yeah.
need a villain.
all right, and then the final goodbye.
Yeah.
And they're all like, okay. They go back to the Nora's apartment. It was
She starts
Arthur, and
Hae Sung.
Hae Sung
Shake hands.
shake hands. It was really nice meeting you. You guys got to come to Korea. All right, Nora's like, I'm gonna walk him to his Uber, and no words are exchanged on the walk to the Uber. 2 minutes, just waiting. The Uber gets
Don't you hate
there.
that waiting for your Uber?
The Uber gets there, and he's putting his shit in his car. And what does he say?
Maybe this is a past life.
Yeah.
Maybe this is a past life, you know. And then is that when he says? What
Yeah.
else does he say?
Well,
Fuck,
because
I'm
he
fucking this up.
says like maybe this moment is a past life, and the two of us are already right now.
Oh,
in,
that's
in,
right.
Like, the next life, you know. And then he's like, what do you think we are in this next life?
She says, "I don't know."
Yeah. I feel like he
And
knows
then-
or wants to say it, but once she says, "I don't know," he's like, "Yeah, okay, I don't know."
He's
either."
like,
No,
Rosario
I don't-
is going way
Yeah.
up right now.
No, I think he's getting the closure. He's like, maybe this is a past life, and like, you know,
well,
goodbye.
I guess
yeah,
what
I think he's ready
what
to
I
move on. That's how
because
I
he's
Well,
hung
what
on
I-
to it for too long.
what
you
I-
know?
what I interpreted
and he
it-
needed this shit.
what I interpret is he's getting the closure, but because he's still an idealist, like there's also a hopeful note, but not like a hopeful note of maybe you'll divorce him and we'll
Yeah.
be together. A hopeful note of okay, maybe we'll be together in the next life. You know, like
I
that's,
mean, it seemed to
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys got this, but when they were waiting for the Uber, it seemed like, you know, if the Uber had taken longer, something might have happened between them.
I
don't
was
know if they
half
were
expecting
kinda
the Uber to
moving towards each
like
other.
go in reverse, you know, just like in the French Connection, going in reverse. But like I was half expecting the car to be like, and then he comes out and they embrace.
So
but,
so
yeah.
look, he says, "All right, bye."
Yeah.
Then he gets in the car, he leaves. She's walking back to the apartment, and what really got me too was, I don't think we mentioned it yet, but apparently ever since she moved to New York, she doesn't cry anymore.
Oh, yes.
And
yeah.
then they ask her
How
why,
did I
and he
miss
says,
that?
she says because no one cares.
Mhm.
So that means even to her husband,
Ooh.
she
Yeah.
doesn't fucking cry,
Wow.
right? Like she's like, her husband's like, "You were a crybaby." She's like, "Yeah, all the time." Like he's surprised because like, "Oh, I've
Yeah.
like never fucking seen you cry," and then she just fucking starts crying on him.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's so intense because it's like, what is going on? She is clearly in a really emotional state,
Yeah.
and her husband embracing her for that, and it's like, I've never seen you cry before. You're crying for him.
She
Yeah.
finally lets it all out.
She finally
like,
lets it all out.
yeah.
Like she feels comfortable crying with
Yeah, the-
Baesung.
The levees have broken down and that ocean of emotion is pouring over. But-
It's interesting too because that's also very traditional. Like he's manly, and she, when she's a child, she's like filling that typical like female gender role.
Mm.
But when she moves, she's like tough.
She's been Americanized. a
She's
little bit,
Americanized.
you know?
She's ambitious. You know.
Mhm.
I mean, I think that like further like draws those boundaries, which I think is like really great
And
observation.
I wonder too if the filmmaker, I didn't look this up. I don't know if she's a first generation American.
Mm.
Wouldn't surprise me based on this. It's supposed to be semi autobiographical.
Yeah,
but,
she might be. I wouldn't be surprised.
My brother's wife is a first generation American, so outside looking in, but having some idea of it. But it forces you to have like an extra layer of skin. You have to be tough skinned for that.
8,000 layers.
Yeah, 8,000 layers. Yes.
So right
you
after
do have
that,
to
when
be
he
emotionally
leaves-
protective, you know.
He leaves, she goes to cry, and like he's looking out the window, and he doesn't look like too sad. I
Yeah.
feel like he got what he need. Like he needed to get this off his back of like, I just need to know.
I feel like
if there
he's
was
good.
anything.
He gets to
I-
go
I
home
think
and
he's
move on.
good
I
too,
feel like
man.
the couple, the two of them, have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I think that
This
conversation.
guy gets, Hae-sung gets to start moving on right
Hae-sung
away.
can move forward
Yeah.
now because he hasn't been able to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Hopefully
now,
these two have like
like-
2 months worth of talks ahead of them.
hmm And that was the
Not
movie.
gonna be fun.
I don't know. I think he's got
I
years of
think-
therapy
I think
ahead of
he'll
him.
be good.
No,
You
but
think
I
the
do
husband and
think
the wife?
I do
don't
think
know
that
about that.
I don't know either. I don't know. I mean, who knows? I mean, I think the ending was supposed to be ambiguous. Obviously,
Yeah.
I don't want to.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think, like, I would venture the guess that, I mean, I don't know if there's any intention behind it, but, I mean, part of the mastery of this movie is that there are no bad guys. There's no one.
Yeah.
fucked
No,
up.
no.
No.
And I mean, I think, like, that will continue on. That dynamic will continue on. I mean, obviously, their
But
emotions.
this
to
is such
unpack.
a-
I'm just saying, I
pivotal
think they
point.
have a lot to talk about before they can move on
But it won't
Hae-sung-
be bad, is what I'm
No,
saying.
but it's
Like,
going to be intense
It's like, if you're
emotionally.
crying that much,
And I think
go
Hae-sung,
with
I'm
it,
just saying in
and it's
contrast
like,
to
do you
Hae-sung,
actually
he's
love
got
him?
nothing to talk
Why
about.
would we
He's
ever
free.
get
He's
that?
unshackled.
Guys,
You know?
He's probably already done.
Guys,
done all his
remember
crying.
early on in the movie when, yeah, we're back in Seoul and him, Hae-sung, and his buddies, they're drinking spot, and they're
Totally.
teasing the guy. This is like in the very beginning of the movie, like they're young adults,
This is
and
the
they're
beginning
teasing
of the movie.
College
not
years.
the college years,
So
like
this is
early
like
on in the movie,
early
they're
on in the
teasing
movie,
the guy
towards
about
the
being
beginning.
sad over his breakup.
Yeah.
But then Hae-sung, like, he puts his arm around him. He's like, "It's okay, let it out. Cry harder," he says. Like, you know, and it's let it out. And then I guess, I don't know if it's supposed to, like, double as that. She finally lets it out. But, yeah, you know, I mean, it's... Maybe I'm not making much of a point, if any, with that. But, yeah,
No, I think
you
you're
just have
right. I mean,
to-
maybe your point is that Hae-sung helps people, you know, realize their own selves.
Yeah, but maybe
He's
he
just such a
doesn't...
good guy.
But
He's
maybe
like,
he
he's
doesn't...
like Chance the Gardener.
But maybe he doesn't. But maybe he doesn't do it for himself, you know. And
Well, he
he's-
wasn't
and
doing it for
He wasn't
himself.
doing it for himself, and yeah. So obviously, this wasn't just like, hey, for the heck of it. Like, this was a defining, hopefully for the better, defining moment in his life. As painful as it obviously was, I do think that he's forever wounded by it. But rather than being like, okay, like I'll never get married, I'll never believe in love again, it's like, okay, I can move on. I've got this wound, but I can do it. Like, it's this like post-traumatic stress thing or whatever. But he's
He
ready to
saw
move
that
on.
that path is closed,
Yeah.
and he's like, for me, like, it's closed.
Yeah.
We had a thing. This was really nice. I feel like I can actually, like, you know, move
Yeah.
forward now. You know,
Yeah.
it sucked, but it's like,
I mean, he
I'm gonna break up this
invested-
fucking one of my best friends, and
He
her
invested
next. No, it's like
everything.
it's done. It's
Yeah.
like,
All right, let's wrap it up and
All
close
right.
this
Yeah.
path
People
now.
have to work.
Yeah, he looked,
That's right.
he looked at the Indian chart and was like, "I'm good." He's like-
all right,
All right.
Michael, you want to start?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So yeah, review time. All right.
Yep.
I really enjoyed this movie, and actually, I would like to see it. I really want to see it again because I just want to have, like, this movie is all about mood, and this is a season that's about mood. But no, it's a movie. Like I said, there's no bad guys. There's no antagonist. There's conflict in this movie, but it's more just about the mood of these characters, what they're feeling. And again, this movie reminded me a lot of Lost in Translation, which is easily one of my favorite movies ever, so I appreciated that. I can't recommend it for you guys and for the viewer. Watch Lost in Translation. You must do that.
You can't recommend it?
I can't recommend it enough. But yeah, so like this movie does a great job of dealing with the pain of what can't be. You know, like it's very poignant. My only knock on the movie is going to be, it's not even a knock, but it's just kind of, there was some obvious symbolism. The dialogue is very restrained and subtle, but like there's a moment where the two of them as 12-year-olds, as kids, right before she leaves, she immigrates, they say bye, and they're going literally their
A split
separate
path, a
ways,
fork
like
in the
split
road,
paths,
yeah.
and I'm like, that's the most like hit you over the head symbolism I've seen in a while, but that's fine, you know. This is a great directorial debut. Hopefully she'll just not be so obvious with the symbolism next time.
How dare you be
I know.
obvious with symbolism?
Yeah. But no. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I love these type of movies where it's sitting in. I love ambiguity, sitting in ambiguous emotions. So, gosh, the symbolism thing irritated me. So how about we do? For the film reels, we'll go 4.5. And I'm going to go 4.5 for the VHS tapes as well. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie, but I don't know if I can say, like, damn, this goes in the pantheon. But it's great stuff, and I look forward to seeing it again.
I really like this movie a lot. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm not really big on the romance movies. I don't really watch them that often, but saw this in theaters, really enjoyed it. Could relate on a lot of levels. Just a lot of like intense feelings where very realistic, a lot of hard emotions, you know, scared to confront things, like very relatable on that, and really pretty. The shots that really got me were towards the end when they're both like little kids and they're what you hated, the symbolism.
No, but I love
really,
that
I
part.
really liked it. It was like,
yeah.
oh, yeah. I mean, we already spoke about it enough. I'm gonna give it 4 VHS tapes and 4 film reels.
Despite being a somewhat sentimental person, dwelling on sentimentality is not something I particularly like to do. So this movie was nice, but it felt to me like, I hate to say a waste of time, but
Yeah, feelings are.
but like, sorry. But it's information I feel I already, I guess, know. It's like multiverse theory. It's like you have all these potentialities, but what does that matter? You are here. You are right now. You should just focus on that. There are relationships with every single person out there that you could have had, and they could have been beautiful, but you got the ones you have, and that's all right. You should think fondly of the people that you've met and parted from, but you should also get over with it. Get over it. Sorry. So I'm gonna give this movie 4 film reels out of 5. I think it's very technically well done. But as for VHS tapes, I'm gonna give it 3. Not
too
something
bad.
I'm particularly interested in. Thank you.
Not bad at all.
It's like, get over it, hey son.
Yeah, you had 24 fucking years.
we all need a Val in our life.
Put it into perspective like that, and you've been thinking about it too much, man. Move on with your life.
Yeah.
All right. Beautiful.
All right, thank you,
Big
Val.
bitch.
Should we be looking at the wide view
No.
for the okay? All right.
You look
So
there.
I've said most of what I wanted to say. I did want to respond to one thing that you said, Michael, and I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah.
Because the symbolism was very, very obvious. But I wanted to talk about that because, it wasn't, the director wasn't literally saying, like spoon feeding like so many terrible American movies do.
Yeah.
But the symbolism was like very clear. Like, what I praise this story for being very, very clear. Like, it's crystal clear. Like, it's a very well told story. And I think that it's so easy to confuse a lot of the time, like, oh, it's really hard to follow a movie. This movie's so intellectual or whatever. Yeah, being difficult to follow doesn't mean it's a good movie. It doesn't make it good.
I understand.
I think it's really important to make that distinction. Like,
I agree.
we're talking about art here. We're talking about someone trying to tell a story, and
Clarity.
it was a well-told story, and I praise it for that. It made the story. It didn't detract from the story at all. I mean, and again, what you said, Michael, like it's a story about mood. Like, the emotions of the story were everything. It was like the words were very much secondary to the emotion. So that being said, I do want to just say, because I give out a lot of 5s. I don't think of myself.
I mean it.
No, so if it were my job to be the arbiter
this isn't a cheap 5 I'm giving out.
if it were stop. If it were my job to be like a movie critic and be the ultimate arbiter of like what's a good movie and what's a bad movie, I would think more about how I gave out 5s. But to me, I'm looking at this movie specifically. And I think objectively speaking, like, it was perfectly well executed. I'm sure there's a thing or here or there that could be improved, I imagine. But I thought the execution was excellent and totally deserving of a 5. So 5 film reels, and that's the objective measurement. For VHS tapes, it's probably clear. I had maximum enjoyment for this movie, so my subjective experience, I give it a 5 out of 5 VHS tapes.
All right.
Nice.
Indy, you're up, brother.
Yeah, I mentioned it already. I really enjoyed. I enjoyed this movie. It made me feel emotions. It made me feel an ocean of emotion. And like we said, the 3 main characters. You know, there's no villains. I think that's a massive achievement in a movie. I don't think that's a knock against it at all. I think. You know, and it's so much easier to tell a story when there's a bad person to be mad at. And there's no one who's doing anything wrong in this movie, really. I mean, you know, not everyone's 100% perfect.
Husband plotting.
Yeah, exactly. And he mentions that, but it's not that kind of movie. And I really enjoyed that. You know, the 3 main characters, you really can empathize with all 3 of them. And it doesn't seem like any of them is more or less right than any of the other ones. So in terms of issues, I'd say my only kind of issue is the pacing. I thought it kind of didn't really kick off until about halfway through the movie. Then that's when I was really interested. I was thinking the first half, I was kind of thinking, I don't know if I'm going to give this movie a very high rating. But it picks up in the second half, picks up crazy, amazing. So as far as film reels, I'm going to give it 4 out of 5. I was maybe thinking about 4.5, but I'm going to give it a solid 4 out of 5. And same for VHS tapes, 4 out of 5 for both.
Nice.
4 and 4.
Hey.
So that's that.
How many Inyans are we giving?
8,000.
I'm giving it 8,000.
All right, so that pretty much concludes our episode. And we have our next episode coming up soon, which is going to be whose pick?
It is Alex.
Alex's pick.
Alex.
So
Your move, creep.
when I
Oh, by the way, can I just shout out?
your mood.
Your mood, creep. Can I just shout out loving the facial hair, Alex?
Yeah.
Looking good. Yeah.
I'm picking the next movie, and that movie is going to be Fight Club. Right, guys?
No
Well,
way.
yeah.
Oh my God.
Wait. Legally Blonde?
No. Fight Club.
Oh, Legally Blonde 2.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching again. Yeah, we appreciate all the views, the likes, the comments.
We love
for
the
coming
comments.
through.
Yeah,
we
those
love
are-
the
those are
comments
hilarious.
really
Please,
Yeah.
please leave your criticism and come back for our next episode where we watch.
Fight Club.
Yeah, thanks for watching, guys.
Flood us with comments, please. Oceans of comments.
Like and subscribe.
Except you, Andrew.
Ring the bells.
Yeah.
All right.
Much
All right.
love.
Peace.
Peace.
Keep it
Yeah.
real.
All right.